Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Very warm good morning to everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. I welcome you all to today's session of the Hindu Newspaper Analysis. Also wishing all of you a very happy Karnataka Rajyotsav, especially those who are watching us from the state of Karnataka. These are the topics that we have taken up for today's discussion from the Hindu newspaper. Today's newspaper was actually filled up with a lot of important topics. These are all the ones that we have taken up. From the mains examination point of view, we will be discussing the concept of ethics parliamentary committee. That is a lot in the news with respect to the member of parliament, Miss Mahua Mohitra. Then we'll also be discussing about the climate financing issue. How is it that the fight against climate change right now is in tatters because we do not seem to have enough money to fight against it? What is the responsibility of the developed countries? What is the responsibility that the other multinational organizations must undertake in order to ensure that our fight against climate change is a success? That is what the article is based on. Then we'll be discussing about the problems in India's local governance, mainly the municipalities. There are a lot of details that have come out about how the municipalities do not have enough resources or enough power to make a considerable change. Then there is an article on why the Maldives President-elect has been extremely tough on India. Why has he been making statements against India, including that Indian military personnel will have to leave Maldives? Then the state of Tamil Nadu has approached the Supreme Court against their own governor, saying that their own governor is not signing on the bills, not giving assent to the bills, even though the constitution does not put any time limit on the governor. But the governor must give the assent on the bill when the bill has been sent by the assembly second time around. But even then, the governor does not seem to be interested in giving the assent. Then from the prelims examination point of view, we have a news about India-Bangladesh railway connection that will be inaugurated today by the prime ministers of the two countries. Then the Rohini Nayyar Prize has now been awarded for the second time. This is the second edition of the award. Then the National Medical Commission is looking to launch the One Nation, One Registration platform to register all the doctors at one single place. And in the end, we'll be discussing about India's Deep Ocean Mission or DOM. What does it entail? What are we trying to achieve in this mission? So without any further delay, let's begin with the first topic. The first topic is the one that we have discussed multiple times right here on the CNA. The topic is about the Member of Parliament, Miss Mahua Mohitra, and what is happening with respect to the Ethics Committee. Now, all of you would know the background of this. Just in case you don't know the background story, let me tell you very quickly. So there is a member of the Lok Sabha from the TMC, it is the Trinamool Congress Party, it is from West Bengal, Mahua Mohitra. There is an allegation that the questions that she asked in the Lok Sabha, as you know, the members of parliament can ask questions in the question hour. The questions that she asked in the Lok Sabha were asked because a businessman gave her money and a businessman wanted to ask her those questions. The businessman that is in question is from the Hiranandani group, that is the big real estate group. Also, the allegations are that the Hiranandani group wanted to put some questions against the Adani group, which is their competitor, and that is why they gave gifts and money in exchange for asking these questions. Then there's also an allegation that since the members of parliament have to submit these questions online on a portal, that the member of parliament shared her ID and password of that portal with the businessman so that he could himself upload the questions. These are some of the allegations that we have seen against a member of parliament. Now, a complaint was filed against her and now an inquiry is being undertaken by the Ethics Committee of the Lok Sabha. This is what we know already from the background of it. So the question is, what has happened now? Why is there a need for another article today? Today's article is important since it is written by former Secretary General of the Lok Sabha, so he knows how the Lok Sabha works. The point that he is making is there is a wrong precedent being set here. Basically, he says that there are two types of committees, or there are two different committees in the Lok Sabha. There's an ethics committee and we also have a privilege committee. He says that these kind of questions, when a member of parliament is misusing the power that they have, these kind of questions are usually investigated by the privilege committee and not by the ethics committee. This is not the first time that such kind of an allegation has come out. There have been allegations like this in the past as well. And on all those occasions, this kind of a matter has been taken over and investigated by the Privilege Committee and not the Ethics Committee. The reason being, there is no proper definition of what is ethical, what is not ethical. If you broke the law, if you misuse your privileges, then the Privilege Committee can suggest and take action. But for the Ethics Committee to decide if you did something right or wrong, it can be very, very subjective because of not having one proper definition of the word ethics. That is the gist of the entire article. The author here gives multiple examples of similar cases that have happened in the past. For example, in 1951, means even before we had the first general elections, as you know, after the constitution came into being, the Constituent Assembly itself was converted to parliament. In that parliament, we had a member called H.G. Mudgal. He was found guilty of promoting the interest of a businessman and putting questions so that his business can benefit from it. There was an investigation done. Before any action could be taken, the member of parliament himself resigned. This is the first such instance of a member of parliament taking something in return for asking questions, and thus an action was taken. 2005, we saw 10 members of the Lok Sabha accepting money for putting up questions in the parliament. Again, this is not something that is happening for the first time. This was a sting operation by a private news channel. All the MPs were expelled after the Privilege Committee gave their report. The Privilege Committee said that they have been accepting money. All these instances in the past have been taken care of by the Privilege Committee. But in this case, we have seen the Ethics Committee coming into the picture. Now, one reason also why the earlier cases were not undertaken by the Ethics Committee is that Ethics Committee did not even exist back then. Ethics Committee in the Lok Sabha especially is a very new phenomena. It's not very old. So when these kind of cases came up, we did not even have an Ethics Committee. The problem with the Ethics Committee, as per the author here, is there is no proper definition of what is ethical, what is not ethical. It's like what you do in case studies in GS4. There is not one single correct option. There can be multiple options correct. You just have to justify your actions. Over here, as per the author, a similar problem exists. When this kind of a committee undertakes an investigation, how would they decide whether the action taken by the member of parliament would be correct or not? Because ethics from different people's point of view may have a different meaning. Also, we have to understand that parliamentary investigations, when they are done by the committees, are not the same as investigations done by the judiciary. The judiciary follows the law, follows what is written in the constitution, what is the statute. The parliament, on the other hand, when they investigate a certain matter, when their committees take up certain cases for investigation, that is different. A judicial body like a judiciary would take the help of statute and rules, while the parliamentary committee basically consists of members of the parliament who are not experts of law. They look into whether the person did right or wrong as per the rules of the house, and then they can interpret them in their own way. Also, this is not a very short method of what will be taken as an evidence, what can be considered as a witness, who can be called as a witness when the parliamentary committee is investigating these types of matters. Means, if a committee examines a complaint against a member of the house, then he can even appear with the help of an advocate as well. So you cannot say that the parliamentary committee investigation method is a foolproof method to go to the bottom of what exactly has happened. So the suggestion from the author is, if we really have to make sure that we get to the bottom of this matter and understand what has happened, maybe a judicial inquiry would have been a better option. If it has to be done within the parliament, then the privilege committee is much better suited as compared to the ethics committee. The second charge on the member of parliament is, apart from the fact that she may accepted money or she may have accepted certain gifts, the other charge is that she shared information that is about the login credentials for the portal on which she has a right to submit the question. Now, this is obviously very sensitive information. Only the members of parliament get these credentials. But as per the author, there is no rule that says that you cannot share these credentials with someone else. In fact, he says it is very common for the members of parliament to share these credentials with their staff, because most of the times they don't put questions themselves. It is their staff on their behalf who would put questions. So it's not a rule written anywhere which says that you cannot share your ID or your password of this portal with anyone else. For example, even when the members of parliament, let's say, have to introduce a bill, it's not that when they introduce a certain bill, it will be composed by them. There's a lot of people who are helping them out. There are a lot of research analysts, bureaucrats who are helping them out. It's not that any bill that is introduced by a politician will be made specifically individually by that politician itself. So this question of why did she share the information, or how did the information, login credentials, went to a person who is not privy to this information, there is again no law that says that this should not be allowed. So this again is a grey area. How does the parliamentary investigation team decides that what was happening here was right or wrong? Now the ethics committee of the parliament, and I'm sure we have discussed this earlier as well, but just a reminder, in Lok Sabha, the parliamentary committee or the Lok Sabha committee for ethics became a permanent committee only in 2015. In 2000, it was established as an ad hoc committee. Ad hoc committee basically means it is established for one special purpose. Once the investigation is done, it would be dissolved. It was given a permanent stature only in the year 2015. In Rajya Sabha, we have had it earlier. In Rajya Sabha, Ethics Committee was established in March of 1997. How is it that the questions can be filed to this committee? Questions can be filed against a member of parliament by any person. However, for any complaint, there has to be evidence also submitted on what basis are these complaints being filed. The speaker can also refer any complaint against a member of parliament to the ethics committee. This is what has happened in this particular case. So in this particular case, it is the speaker who has asked the committee to undertake the investigation. The committee can conduct preliminary inquiry to determine if a complaint warrants further examination or not. Means, without having a deep dive, they first see on the first look, does it seem that the matter is serious? Does it seem that the investigation is required or not? The committee presents a report to the speaker, and then the House input, etc. is taken on the report. There can be discussion also that can be held on such a report. Because the article entirely is based on comparison between ethics and the privilege committee of the parliament, let's see a comparison of the two. The problem is, even though we already had a privilege committee, the formation of ethics committee meant that now there's a lot of overlap in the working of the two. But usually what happens is, it is seen in the past as well, when there are serious allegations that are made, that something really serious has happened, then the matter usually goes to the privilege committee. This is the usual way in which the parliament has been functioning and differentiating between privilege committee and the ethics committee. Also, the privilege committee safeguards the freedom, authority and dignity of the parliament. See, the members of parliament have been given the freedom of speech with respect to whatever they say in the parliament. So this is also a very interesting grey area. If a member of parliament asked a certain question, can you then put allegations or can you then punish the member of parliament from asking that question? Because at the end of the day, the members of the parliament have complete freedom of speech with respect to whatever they say in the parliament. Now, whether the rules say that you cannot speak on someone else's behalf, that has to be decided by this investigation committee, in this case, which is the ethics committee of the Lok Sabha. Now, time for the second article. The second article today is again on a topic which is very concerning for nations around the world. That is the problem of climate finance. Every country around the world accepts that we are in an era where fight against climate change has to be taken seriously. Everyone accepts the fact that we have to take some concrete measures if we really have to improve our fight or make ourselves fight stronger against climate change. But the problem is all of this requires money. Adopting new technology, giving a miss to fossil fuels, generating power from coal, etc. is easy. If you want to switch to cleaner energy, it requires a lot of money. It requires investment and research. The problem is, from where do we get this money? Now there are two groups here, developed nations and the others. It is an accepted fact, it is the developed nations who are more responsible because they were the ones whose actions caused climate change after industrial revolution began. So the responsibility of giving more money or helping the other nations, helping the entire environment is more on the developed countries. And there have been multiple funds set up since then. But the problem is there is just not enough money coming in from the developed countries. The developed countries keep on making different excuses. They keep on putting the blame on countries such as India, such as China, that you are not doing enough. But when they themselves have not fulfilled the promises that they have made. Neither have they fulfilled the promise of cutting down the emission, which we discussed a couple of days back. The nationally determined contributions which the countries themselves decided. Most developed countries are not on the path to achieve that. Add to that they have not even fulfilled their promises of contributing enough to our fight against climate change. Why is this article written now? Because in a few days we have an upcoming UNFCCC meeting in Dubai, when the countries will likely discuss how to achieve the goal of $100 billion climate finance. So for a long time, the countries have been promising that we will achieve the goal of contributing $100 billion every year, mainly from the developed world, so that this money can be used in projects that fight against climate change in developing countries, in least developed countries, etc. What is the origin story of this? So there are multiple meetings where these kind of things have been discussed. For example, in the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, Article number 9 says, it is mandatory for the developed countries to provide in their biennial update reports. So biennial update reports are reports that the countries publish to tell their progress about climate change fight, how much money do they require more, how much money have they invested in green energy, what are the new achievements that they have had. So in the Paris Agreement, it was decided that the developed countries in this report will clearly tell how much money have they provided already and how much money are they looking to provide even further to the developing countries going ahead. But most of the countries don't do that. It was in 2009 in Copenhagen that the developed countries made a commitment that by year 2020, they will be able to mobilize $100 billion per year. But obviously that target has not been achieved. The developed countries have been saying that this $100 billion mark should come in the form of loan, while the developed world wants this in the form of a grant. Loan obviously means something that has to be given back. Grant means that you don't have to give it back. The developed world has not been living up to the promises that they have made against climate change. At Glasgow in 2021, altogether, the countries that is from the developed world could only contribute $79.6 billion, means over 20% short, as compared to the goal that was set by the developed countries themselves. The Paris Climate Agreement again included nationally determined contributions as well, which have not been achieved by most of the countries. We did discuss this topic a couple of days back, if you remember. Amongst the developed world, there are very, very few countries that are on their track to achieve this. Most of the developed countries, doesn't matter what excuses they give, the COVID-19 crisis, the Ukraine-Russia war, but the reality is that they are not on track to achieve this. On the other hand, India is on track to achieve increased goals, the goals that we increased ourselves, and we are on track to achieve most of those. So in this fight against climate change, India is showing the way to the developed world. As per multiple reports, if the countries around the world in the global south, that is the developing countries and the least developed countries, if they want to achieve their goal, they would need help of close to $6 trillion until 2030. India also in its report said that our financial needs for adaptation will be about $206 billion. For mitigation, they will be about $834 billion. This is the amount of money that India would also require from the developed world. Just to make you understand, the difference between adaptation and mitigation is, adaptation means now that climate change has happened, now adapt to living with this. For example, let's assume that the seawater level is rising. Okay? Let's assume seawater level is rising. Now, One option that you have is now you start building higher houses. You build higher buildings. So what are you doing? You are adapting to it. So adapting means whatever climate change has happened, you cannot stop that. You adapt to living with this. Mitigation means trying to reduce the water level. Trying to make sure the water level basically becomes lower so that we can live in our existing houses. Ideal way to go ahead is to focus on both. To mitigate also means to stop climate change from happening, and to adapt also means what has happened, what is irreversible, now you have to live along with this. For this, India needs $206 billion for adaptation purposes till 2030 and $834 billion for mitigation purposes. That is what our demand is from the developed world. The reason why this climate financing has not been successful is that there is no clear formula how much money will be coming in from which country. US provided only 5% of its share that was given to it in 2020. There is no proper formula how much percentage of money should come from which country. Right now it's mostly based on the size of their economy, how much can they actually contribute. We already have existing funds such as a Green Climate Fund that was set up by the developed countries. We also have the Global Environment Facility, but none of these have been able to get the amount of funds that is required. For example, the Green Climate Fund that was set up, the aim was to reach $100 billion for developing countries. But again, they had not been able to go beyond $9.3 billion in new contributions. So it's a fraction of what they set out to achieve. It's much, much lower than what is required by the developing countries. The interesting part is, it's not that the rich nations don't have enough money to spare. The problem is their priorities. For example, in 2009-10, when we had the global financial crisis, starting with the US stock market crash, we had the housing crisis in the US. At that point of time, the rich nations quickly came together, and to support the IMF and multilateral banks, they contributed $1.1 trillion just within a few weeks. So to say that the rich countries don't have enough money to spare is wrong. They do have enough money to spare. The question is, on what matter are they interested? Where do they want to spend this money? Where do they want to loosen their purse strings? That is what the question is. And right now it seems that climate financing is not amongst the topmost priority for these countries. Now the article mentions a couple of interesting ways in which climate financing has been ensured. We have something called the GEF, the Global Environment Facility. This is oldest fund of this kind, one of the oldest. It was set up in 1992. The idea was that from this fund, money can be contributed to different things to fight against climate change. It, for example, gives financial assistance to Minamata Convention on Mercury, the Stockholm Convention on POP, UN Convention on Biological Diversity, UN Convention to Combat Desertification, Convention on Fighting Climate Change, that is UNFCCC. All of these are given financial assistance through the GEF. The idea is to stop the loss of biodiversity, to fight against climate change, to fight against pollution, etc. So this is the older fund. And this is how it has progressed. 1992, the pilot phase of $1 billion was announced. Then we had $2 billion, 2.75. All these have been contributed from time to time. Mostly it is a developed world that contributes money to the Global Environment Facility in different meetings. Then we have the Green Climate Fund, that is the GCF. It is much more latest. It was set up in the year 2010 under UNFCCC specifically. The idea was to get money from developed world and to distribute it to the developing countries. This is the fund where it was aiming to achieve the target of $100 billion by 2020, which has not been fulfilled so far. We are already by the end of 2023, so we are lagging behind this target. Remember, for the Global Environment Facility, for this one, there was no set target. $100 billion target that was set up for contribution every single year was for the Green Climate Fund, not for the Environment Facility. Do remember this part specifically. Now the third topic that we have taken up is filled up with data about the problems in local governance, mainly the problems in municipalities. As you all know, the municipalities were given a constitutional status in India by the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. But the problem is, even though the law was made to give a constitutional status, it did not really give a lot of powers to local governance. Most of the sharing of power and resources was made voluntary, in the sense that it was the state government that had to decide how much money, how much power do they want to give to their municipalities. Now, when you make it voluntary on someone, that if you want, you can give some power, if you want, you can give some money, that obviously means that the state government would not really be interested in giving money that is required by these local governance, that is the municipalities. This problem exists even today. The report, that is Annual Survey of India's City System 2023, published by a non-profit organization, is the basis of the article that we are discussing here. This article has a lot of data about how state governments have not been empowered by the central government, and thus state governments in turn have not empowered their municipalities to collect their own taxes. Most of them don't have enough responsibility. Most of them don't have enough resources. For example, as per this report, only Assam has empowered its city governments to collect all the key taxes. In any other state, the municipalities has not been empowered to collect these taxes. Except the states of Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Meghalaya and Rajasthan, all other have to get approval from the state before borrowing money. So the municipalities, the local governance cannot even borrow money from the market without the permission of the state government, except in these 5 states. Now let's see some of this data. Although it's very heavy and very concentrated in the form of a table, I'll tell you some of the interesting pointers here so that you can remember and quote this in the exam. For example, look at this. Look at these two. Let me change the color of the pen. Look at these two specifically. Percentage of cities that have complete power over their staff, 0, 0, 0, 0. Means mega cities, none, large cities, medium cities, small cities, none of them have complete power over their staff. Also, how have they defined the cities? It's written over here. According to this survey, mega cities are population of 40 lakh or above. Then large cities are about 10 to 40 lakh. Then medium cities are 5 to 10 lakh. And then small cities are under 5 lakh. If this is the distribution, none of the cities have complete power over their staff. Then look at the second one. They can levy all the key taxes, only one that is in the medium range. That would be the contribution of Assam. Apart from that, none of them actually have the power to even levy key taxes. Then look at this one. Power to borrow money without prior sanction of the state, very, very low. So again, if you can see all these numbers, that means the way in which the local governance, the municipalities have been allowed to work is with a lot of restrictions. Without the state government allowing them to work, there are very, very little decisions that they can actually take. Then see about the availability of civic data in the capital cities. So look at just the capital cities across the country and look at in these cities, how many audit reports do they have, how many audit reports do they even publish for the local people to see. Means you and me, who have elected directly the members of our municipality, we cannot even see their budget, we cannot even see where have they spent the money, we cannot even see how much money is going where. That also leaves a big problem. If you see the municipal staff per lakh of population, that also tells you why the situation is so bad, why we still have cities, roads that are not clean, why we still have garbage that has not been taken care of, why we still have clogged drainage leading to all this water being stagnated, because we just don't have enough staff. Look at this number. This is the municipal staff per lakh population. New York, close to 6,000. London, close to 3,000. Johannesburg, 659. Mumbai, 938. Bangalore, 317. Hyderabad, 486. So you just don't have enough staff to even fulfill the most basic functioning of the municipality, which is why most of our cities do not give enough facility or enough civic amenities to their citizens who have been paying taxes and who have been electing their municipal members. The next article that we have is about Maldives and what is happening between Maldives and India. Nothing new has happened. It's just a background or refreshing information about the Maldives President-elect and why is he taking this stand on India. As you know, Maldives recently had an election and they elected Mr. Muizu as the next president. President-elect means someone who has been elected as a president already but has not taken up the post because the tenure of the last one is still about to get over. So Mr. Muizu, one of the promises that he made in his campaign was, once I get elected to power, I will send all the Indian troops back to India. Basically, this is a big campaign that has been running in Maldives, and the campaign that we have seen is India Go Back. Or India Out. This campaign that has been running in Maldives by those who are pro-China, they demand that India's presence in Maldives is too much and it should decrease. Now, let's first understand this. When the president of a country says, I will send back the troops of India from my country, your first assumption would be that, oh, maybe there are many Indian troops in that country, maybe that's why they are worried. But let's break that myth first. How many Indian troops are actually in Maldives? 75. That's all. Only 75 Indian troops are in Maldives. First. Second, what are they doing in Maldives? Are they trying to fight? Are they trying to influence the government? No. India has given many weapons to Maldives from time to time. The 75-person strong team from Indian military is there to take care of those weapons, to make sure that if there is some repair, if they require some training, those weapons, those military personnel will take care of those weapons. So when the president says, I will remove or I will ask all the Indian military personnel to go back, it's not like thousands of military personnel of India are there. It's only 75. And they are only to maintain the helicopters, the aircraft that Indian government had given to them and not more. So it's more of a matter which has held the person, which has held Mr. Muizu to get elected, rather than there being any substance in it. Now, Maldives politics is very interesting. Maldives politics is usually divided into two parts. Politicians that are either pro-China and others that are being seen as pro-India. And interestingly, there is usually a flip-flop. So for example, the outgoing president that we have right now, Ibrahim Mohammed Solih, was seen as pro-India. He was seen as a policy supporter of India first, while the current president-elect is seen as more of pro-China. Although he says that that is not true. I am not pro any country, I just want no interference from outside. But most of his policies, most of the interaction that he is doing are in line with his pro-China policy. The 75 personnel that we have from India to Maldives, what do? They take care, as I said, of the Dornier aircraft, the helicopters that we have given to Maldives, some as gift and some we have sold to them. Now, what is the new president saying? Again, the new president says, we will not allow Indian, Chinese or any other country presence in our nation. But again, that is not exactly true. His superior, means the person from his party who was the president before Mohammed Solih, was President Yamin. Let's try and understand this. So basically, Yamin was the president from 2013 to 2018. Then Ibrahim Solih became the president from 2018-23. And now we have Mr. Muizu, who will become president from 2023 to 2028. These two from the same party, these two are seen as pro-China. Ibrahim Solih is seen as pro-India. So when Mr. Yamin was the president, he in fact even said that India should take back these helicopters that we have given to them as gifts. While Mr. Yamin, when he was in power, he in fact changed the law under which foreigners were allowed to own land in Maldives. Now please understand this. When Mr. Yamin was a president, he specifically changed laws to allow foreigners to own land in Maldives. That was specifically done so that the Chinese can own islands in Maldives. There are multiple islands in Maldives right now that are owned and controlled by China, mainly under the regime of Mr. Yamin, which obviously India does not like. Now the question here is, Maldives can say that we don't need help of India, we don't need help of China, all of you go back. But the point is, they really do need help. The reason being, countries such as Maldives are extremely dependent on tourism for any kind of economic activity. During the COVID-19 crisis, the global tourism was shut down. During that time period, they had to take a lot of loan. So right now, they have to pay back a lot of installments. So for example, right now, they have to pay $570 million annually for the next 2 years. In 2026, Maldives have to pay back over $1 billion of the debt that they have taken to the World Bank, as per the World Bank. Now the question is, from where are they planning to get this money? There is no clarity on that. If they do have close relationship with countries such as India and China, they may have expected them to help. But when they keep a stand saying that we don't want India to be here, we don't want China to be here, this problem of debt, the rising debt, may become an issue going forward for Maldives. Now, why does India want to stay interested and invested in Maldives? Look at the map first. Maldives is extremely close to India. For example, if you are in Bangalore, for example, you take a flight, your flight to Maldives will reach sooner as compared to your flight to Delhi. So from Bangalore to Delhi, the flight would be about 2 hours 30 minutes, 2 hours 40 minutes. From Bangalore to Maldives, the flight would be just 2 hours. So again, it's very close to India's border, very close to Lakshadweep. So for India to have a vested interest in Maldives is understood for everyone. In fact, we have committed close to $1.5 billion in the economic and social development of Maldives in the past 4 years. We have been building a lot of infrastructure there as well. India, Maldives and Sri Lanka together have formed a Colombo Security Conclave as well, where the three countries share maritime information with each other, help each other whenever they think that there is any disturbance in the region or there is any upcoming danger. In the past also, our relationship with Maldives has remained good, but it's more dependent on who is in power. As I said, the politics of Maldives is very fluctuating between pro-India and pro-China. In the past, we have initiated many infrastructure projects in Maldives as well. For example, their international airport development project was with the Indian money that will cater to about 13 lakh passengers every year. We have also helped them with a 6.74 kilometer long bridge between Male, that is the main island, and the nearby islands of Vilangli, Golfihalu and also Thilafushi. All these islands are connected to their capital city with the help of bridge that India has created. This is the largest infrastructure project of Maldives and it was all done by India. So the way that Maldives President-elect is now making statements against India, it's not in line with the foreign policy that the earlier leaders had adopted. And this is also an interesting lesson for you here. Usually, when the democratic countries around the world have a change in power, have a change in the government, a lot of countries, you will see, as soon as they change their government, have a very different foreign policy as compared to the previous government. There is a huge disruption. So as soon as, for example, someone else comes to power, they will start making statements against their friends. You saw this when Donald Trump came to power. When Donald Trump became the American president, he all of a sudden started making statements against American friends. And you have seen this in many countries. Look at in Bangladesh. Bangladesh has two main political parties, the Awami League and the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. Awami League, when they come to power, as they are in power right now, they're very pro-India. BNP is not that pro-India. The point I'm making here is India is an exception in that case, which is a very good thing. If you look at India's foreign policy, doesn't matter when the government changes at the center, you do not see any big disruptions in India's foreign policy. You might see some slight changes here and there, but any disruption is usually not seen even when the government changes from one party to the other. If India was a non-aligned country, from the starting of our independence, even today we remain a non-aligned country officially, which is a very, very good thing, which we don't see in many democratic countries. And in Maldives also, again, we are not seeing this. India, irrespective of whoever is in power, has been extended help to Maldives multiple times. The most famous one was Operation Cactus in 1988. When the Maldives government was under danger, there were some militant that had come in from Sri Lanka to overthrow the government in Maldives. Rajiv Gandhi government had sent a military under Operation Cactus to protect the Maldives government. In 2014, when Maldives, they are dependent mainly on desalination plants. They take in water from the ocean, desalinate it, and then they consume it. Their desalination plant caught fire in Malé. They were out of water. India was the first country that sent help of drinking water to Maldives and repaired their desalination plant. During the COVID-19 crisis also, we had supplied millions of tons of essential medicine. So India has done all the things that we can do from our side. Now it's up to the other countries, the other side, whether they want to reciprocate or not going forward. The next article that we have is from the front page of the Hindu newspaper. The government of Tamil Nadu, that is not really fond of its governor for some time, and we have seen this in the news. They have finally gone to the Supreme Court saying that the governor is not fulfilling their constitutional mandate, and they are delaying the bills, not giving assent to the bills. They are delaying how a democratic government functions in the entire state. So what is the matter all about? See, R.N. Ravi has been at the center of controversy multiple times, especially in Tamil Nadu. Even before Tamil Nadu, he was at the center of controversy wherever he has been posted. Now, the latest controversy is the Tamil Nadu government has been saying that whenever they send important bills to him, either he just sends the bill to the President of India, or even when he keeps a bill with himself, he just does not sign on important bills, which delays the governance process. Now, the interesting part is the Constitution of India does not give any time limit in which the governor or the president has to sign the bill. But you also know, when the bill goes to the governor can use an option of suspensive veto. That means sending the bill back to the assembly. If the assembly sends the bill once again, the second time, then the governor has no option but to sign. But in this case, what is happening is Mr. Ravi, even on the second occasion, has not been signing the bills. He has just not been giving any response to the government. This is why the Tamil Nadu government now has decided to go to the Supreme Court, saying that a lot of important files and bills are pending. Yes, we understand that there is no time limit, but that doesn't mean that he will not allow the government to function. It's a democratically elected government, and the government will not be able to function if these bills are not being signed by the governor. They have to be signed within a specific time frame, and this is what the government has alleged in the Supreme Court. The government has said that there are multiple such instances wherever we have sent files, wherever we have sent appointment letters, recruitment orders, none of these things are being signed by the governor. The government of Tamil Nadu says that this seems to be the fact that the governor is working more in the interest or on the orders of the central government rather than working in the interest of the state government. This has become a matter of big worrying, or this has become a big worrying matter, especially for the state of Tamil Nadu. Now, as you know, there have been multiple commissions formed that have suggested how to reform the office of the governor. There was a Sarkaria commission formed to improve the central-state relations. In their recommendation, they also gave a lot of recommendations on the working of the governor. Amongst those, the recommendations included how to change the appointment process of the governor, how the state government should also be taken into confidence before appointing the governor to avoid this specific circumstance, to avoid a situation where the central government is giving the orders and the governor is listening to them rather than listening to the State Council of Ministers. It is article number 200 of the Constitution that talks about the governor's legislative power, that talks about the governor's power to give assent to the bill. Now, as you know, when a bill goes to the governor can give assent to the bill or can use the same vetoes that are available to the president. Absolute veto means saying no. Pocket veto means keeping the bill with himself for unlimited amount of time, or suspensive veto, that is sending the bill back once. However, the governor has one additional power here. That is, the governor can reserve the bill for the consideration of the president. And then the president decides what to do, what not to do. But the problem here is when the governor uses suspensive veto, means when the governor sends the bill back to the assembly once, if the assembly sends it back for the second time with or without changes, the governor must sign on this. And this is something that has not been happening. The governor is constitutionally bound to give assent to the bill for the second time. But even in this case, the governor says, I don't have any time limit, so I will decide what to do. You can't force me. This matter is now in the Supreme Court. Let's see what the Supreme Court decides going forward. It will also set a precedent in other states where similar kind of things seem to be happening. Now, from the prelims exam point of view, we have a few news stories extremely important for the examination. The first one, today the Prime Ministers of India and Bangladesh are all set to inaugurate the Akhora-Agartala railway link between the two sides. First, let me show you the map so that you can understand. So, let's look at this map. So, Agartala in Tripura and Akhora here in Bangladesh. This is the rail link which has been building for some time now. It has now completed. It will be inaugurated today. The idea is, first, we will have better connectivity, mainly of trade. It can be passenger connectivity as well, but it's mainly for connectivity in terms of trade, in terms of transportation of goods. That is a short-term project. The long-term project, as per the experts, is ultimately what India wants is to have connectivity between Agartala and Kolkata. Look at this map. So right now, for example, let's say this is Kolkata. Right now, for connectivity between Agartala and Kolkata, there is a very long route that the trains have to take. Very, very long route. If you can just bypass this and come through Bangladesh, there will be much better, much easier connectivity. That is the entire idea. And this part of the project is where the government of India and Bangladesh, India specifically, is interested. Akhora is connected to Dhaka as a railway link, and from Dhaka, the project can actually be extended to Kolkata in the long run. That is what the government of India has been hoping. This is why most of the funding for this project has come in from India only. If you look at how much money this project has cost, India has given assistance of 392.52 crore rupees. This railway link, it's only about 12.24 kilometer long. It has been, out of which 5.46 will be in Tripura, 6.78 will be in Bangladesh. The idea is to give a boost to the industry, especially Assam's tea industry, so that we can have a much, much better connectivity with Bangladesh going forward. This is an old project, started first in 2010 under the UPA government. Then, just like other infrastructure projects, it also got delayed considerably. But the idea is, once this project goes ahead, we might see other states in the northeast also getting better connectivity to Bangladesh and then beyond. Now, the problem here is, and as I said to you just a few minutes back, in countries such as Bangladesh, their policies depend a lot on who is in power. Since the Awami League is in power right now, Sheikh Hasina, who is usually seen as a pro-India party, for them, they do support these kind of projects. But if the government changes and parties such as the BNP come to power, which have not really been very pro-India, then such kind of projects may be under danger going forward. The hope is that we will have better infrastructure in terms of trade, in terms of tea, sugar, construction items. They can be given from one place to the other. The other interesting part is the timing of this inauguration. So Bangladesh also is just going into their elections. Just like India, they will also have the model code of conduct. Before the model code of conduct comes into the picture, they have inaugurated this again to give a boost to their own regional economy, which is again being seen as an election ploy in Bangladesh as well. Apart from the railway link, the two leaders will also inaugurate the Khulna-Mongla Port railway line and the second unit of the Maitri Super Thermal Power Plant. So it's not the only project where the two sides have been collaborating. Just to give you one more information, Bangladesh is right now in the middle of building its first nuclear power plant in Rooppur. And which country is making it? India and Russia. India and Russia together are making and helping Bangladesh make their first nuclear power plant in Rooppur. So this is not the only time, or this is not the only example of collaboration between the two sides. These are the other details of the projects. TK's Taka, this is Bangladeshi currency. So this snippet has been taken from a Bangladesh newspaper. That is why the currency here is TK, that is Taka. The next news is about a prize called the Rohini Nayyar Prize, a very, very well-known social worker, well-known economist who passed away a few years back. On her name, in her memory, there is a social worker prize that is called the Rohini Nayyar Prize. The second prize, or the second edition of this prize, has just been announced. It has been given to Mr. Dinanath Rajput, who has been working in Bastar, in the Naxal affected area specifically, and for his contribution to this area, he has been given this award. What has he done? He has set up farmer producers organization in Bastar area, where he has helped 6,000 tribal women in earning better livelihood opportunities, in making sure that they have a positive change in their life. Now it's very significant because most people want to stay away from these areas like Bastar, etc., where your life is in danger because of Naxal activities and you do not have a lot of facilities to reside there. But even then, he set up his organization there in 2018, started with 337 members. Now it's about 6,000 women members strong across 4 different districts. This farmer producer organization offers facilities such as cold storage infrastructure, connects them to markets, allowing them to sell their product at a much, much better price. This is the second edition of the Rohini Nayyar Prize. As I said, the first one was given to Setrichim Sangatan. He runs something called the Better Life Foundation. He won the prize last year, that is in 2022. This year, it is being given to Mr. Dinanath Rajput. Next is a news from the National Medical Commission, where they have said that we are now inaugurating One Nation, One Registration platform for info on all the doctors. So basically the idea is, right now when the doctors have to get registered for licensing, etc., lot of this is done at the state level. So there is no one unified database to have a look at the physicians, the different doctors, their qualifications, everything else. The National Medical Commission says that we will now be unifying this. We will set up one single platform for all the doctors so that there is no duplication. It will be much easier to access information on any physician working anywhere across the country. It will have about 14 lakh doctors which are registered in the system already, and they will all be transferred to this one single platform. Also, if the doctor himself or herself faces some issue with the granting of the license, renewal of the license, etc., they can file an appeal to the medical registration, to the Ethics and Medical Registration Board. They will then look into whether the decision of the State Medical Council is true or not. So if the doctor has to take any license or has to renew the license, they have to first take permission from the State Medical Council. If the State Medical Council is not renewing that, their decision can be challenged by a doctor in this board. This is also one of the new rules introduced by the NMC. The appeal against such a decision has to be made within the 30-day time period of the decision coming in from the state level. The National Medical Commission in itself is an extremely important statutory body in India. It regulates medical education and practice while upholding the highest standards of education across the entire country. Before this, we used to have something called the Medical Council of India. Medical Council of India had a lot of its issues. This has now been replaced by the National Medical Commission. It has 25 members, tenure of 4 years each. Majority of these are nominated. They are nominated. Those who are nominated by the center cannot be re-nominated again. The meeting has to be held at least once every quarter. Medical Council of India used to have a meeting once every year, but now every quarter the meeting is mandated by the law. The last article that we have is from Science. Now we talk a lot about ISRO's achievements, and we should. We talk a lot about Gaganyaan, we talk a lot about Chandrayaan, etc. But India is making huge strides, not just in the atmosphere, not just in the outer space, but also underwater as well. This is where the government has been focusing on something called DOM, that is the Deep Ocean Mission. Now, what is the Deep Ocean Mission? As the name suggests, it's about exploring the underwater life, exploring the resources underwater, exploring the mineral reserves that can be helpful going forward. For this, the Government of India has been working on a project called Samudrayan. Under this project Samudrayan, the Government of India has been trying to build a submersible vehicle in which the people can sit and they can go underwater. This is called Matsya. Matsya 6000 underwater submersible vehicle has been built. This will be able to reach up till the depth of 6000 meter. Now please understand, as per many experts, going underwater to great depth is much harder, much tougher than going in the space. The reason being, the kind of pressure that the vehicle faces when you go underwater to such a depth is immense. There are so many different methods that have been deployed. There have been so many experiments and most of them have failed drastically. Thus, to achieve this is a very big deal. The Government of India is on its way to now start the successful use of the Matsya 6000 submersible vehicle. It will have 3-member crew. There will be 3 people who will be going beneath the ocean. It will be up till the depth of 6000 meter. This project was first approved in 2021. It is a project that has cost over 4,000 crore rupees to the Government of India. Now, the Samudrayan mission has a total of 6 pillars. First is to develop deep sea mining manned submersible, that is a vehicle, that is the Matsya 6000 to go up to 6000 meter. Secondly, to develop ocean climate change advisory services. Third, innovation for exploration, conservation of deep sea biodiversity. Fourth, deep sea survey exploration aimed at potential sites for having hydrothermal sulfides mineralization, harnessing energy and fresh water from the ocean, and establishing a marine station for ocean biology. Now, it's a phased project of 5 years. As you can see here, it's a phased 5-year project. We are first focusing here. To ensure that we undertake deep sea mining, that we can undertake minerals and also have our crew going under the water. Now, this Samudrayan mission, as I said, is focused on the 6000 meter mark. Now, the question is, why 6000 meter? Why is it that's not 3000? Why are we not aiming for higher or lower? The reason being that this is the depth at which we expect most of the mineral reserves to be. Now, understand this idea. Why are the countries doing this? Which country has done this? Countries such as US, Russia, China, France and Japan, they have achieved deep ocean cruise missions. India is planning to be the next country. Our Matsya 6000 vehicle has a life of, or can endure about 12 hours of pressure. They can extend it up to 96 hours in case of an emergency. Now, the question is, what are we going to do? Let's understand how this mineral mining works from the deep sea. So this is, let's say, India's southern border. As you know, from our coastline, up to 200 nautical miles is our exclusive economic zone. So up to 200 nautical miles, we can explore whatever minerals that we want. What if we want to go beyond that? Every country has their own economic exclusive zone, EEZ. Apart from that, there is an open sea, which is not under any country. If you want to explore minerals in the open sea, then you have to take permission from the International Seabed Authority. It's a UN body. They are the ones who give permission to countries to explore minerals from a certain area. And India has been given the permission to explore minerals such as copper, manganese, nickel and cobalt. We can explore these minerals from the Central Indian Ocean region. So this is the region that has been allocated to us, and these are the minerals: copper, manganese, nickel and cobalt. Now, most of these minerals such as copper, manganese, nickel, iron, cobalt are usually found at the depth of 5000 meter deep. Polymetallic sulfides are found at about 3000 meter deep. This is why we are focusing on 6,000 meter depth, no other reason. We have been allocated an area of 75,000 square kilometer in the central Indian Ocean and 10,000 square kilometer at 26 degrees south to India for this mineral exploration. Which authority has given this right to us? The International Seabed Authority, that is a UN body which has the right to give this kind of power to any country. Apart from Matsya 6000, that is a submersible vehicle that will go underneath the water, there is one more component that is called Varaha. Varaha will be a kind of a mining body that will be able to extract the minerals and bring it out. So Matsya will be the vehicle that will allow the people to go underneath, undertake the study. Varaha will be a seabed mining system. So it will go underneath, it can mine the minerals and then bring it up. Countries such as China, France, Germany, Japan, Russia, South Korea have already tried their hands on such kind of a mining vehicle system, and India is also planning to achieve the same. Polymetallic nodules is a center of attraction for most countries right now, including India, that think that the oceans can be the next big thing to achieving all these mineral resources. These are the minerals that are usually seen in the polymetallic nodules. This brings us to the end of today's discussion. Here are a couple of practice questions for all of you to answer, and make sure that you do write answers to at least one of these. It would be great if you can write both of these. Write these answers in a student answer writing portal. Check each other's answers, give each other feedback. The link for that portal is given in the description of the video. You can also go now to our Telegram channel, attempt the quiz based on the topics that we have just discussed so that you can revise them very well. Thank you so much for joining in. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.